Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Got a good topic for you today? Let's do it. What's the scariest true story you know? A little serious. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. This was back in the 1860s in my hometown in Norway. Two men and three women went to the woods to drink and grill on a late September night. They never came home. When the town searched for them, they found all of their clothes but no bodies. Still a mystery today. This is an island, too. This is my friend's story, not mine. This is easily the scariest and most unexplainable story I've ever heard of my entire life. A few years ago, my friend, let's call her Fiona, for the story's sake, lost her grandfather, which she was extremely close with. Recently, she went to visit his grave and brought him flowers. While she was visiting his grave, she noticed that none of the other tombstones had flowers or gifts, and since Fiona is an extremely kind and empathetic person, she decided to gift a couple of them flowers too. Months went by, and slowly but surely, Fiona forgot about this particular visit. This is until one night, Fiona was trying to make more space on her phone by deleting a bunch of random pictures and files, etc. She noticed a few hundred pictures, which seemed at first glance as hundreds of copies of the exact same picture. Although quickly, Fiona realized that every picture was slightly different. Those hundreds of pictures showed a woman with flowers walking in a graveyard from a good distance away. My friend Fiona, even though she didn't realize it at first, was staring at pictures of herself a few months ago visiting her grandpa's grave. She couldn't comprehend how those pictures were taken. She went to visit him alone that day. Her phone was in her pocket the whole time. Why didn't she ever notice those hundreds of pictures before? Furthermore, she found all of those pictures on her Google Photos account. Essentially, for people who never owned such an account, it lets you know from which device pictures were originally taken from and who exactly uploaded those pictures on the account. The Google account details for those pictures is the creepiest part of the story. The pictures were taken from Fiona's phone, which, if you remember, was in Fiona's pocket the whole time, and were uploaded by her according to Google. We never figured out what happened and who took these pictures and who uploaded them. Lian Chang was educated in London but returned to live in Shanghai with her husband. Then, Mao Zedong and the Communist Party took power and the Great Cultural Revolution started. Because Chang's deceased husband had been a Shell Oil executive, she was targeted by bands of communist youth. Each gang wanted to prove they were true communists, so each sought to outdo each other in violence and cruelty. After all, if someone is more cruel than you, then you might be secretly a capitalist sympathizer, taking it easy on the target. Her home would be hit by mobs and rioters several times a week, smashing things, looting valuables, and beating Chang with fists and clubs. Finally, Chang was thrown into prison. No charges were given. Being the wife of a capitalist was proof enough. She was told to simply confess her crimes and then her trial would begin. When she said she was innocent, her jailers laughed. Why would she be in prison if she wasn't guilty? Chang spent 6 years in that prison, subjected to torture and abuse. Her teeth fell out due to the inhumane conditions. Her daughter, also in prison, was killed because she refused to denounce her mother. Chang was paroled in 1973 on the basis that her attitude had improved. Chang emigrated to the US in 1980, where she wrote a book about her experiences. She swore never to return to China, while a portrait of Chairman Mao remained displayed on the gates of Tiananmen Square. When I was a volunteer firefighter, the department responded to a daytime house fire reported by a UPS driver. No one was home. We forced entry, located a kitchen and oven fire. We began to extinguish. I went into the basement to shut the gas and power, and I found two filthy, naked young children locked in dog cages. I mean, did the kids get out? Well, they kind of left us hanging on that one, but thank you for sharing. Leon Zolgos was the assassin of William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States. He was electrocuted for his crime on October 29, 1901, at the Auburn Prison in Auburn, New York. Among the personal effects found in his cell were a U.S. quarter stamped with the date 2218. The face in the profile on said quarter was not Lady Liberty, who was on quarters at the time, but rather a face which has yet to be identified. Won't go too much into detail with the backstory. My friend moved into my house with my mom and I about 5 years ago. Lived with us a little over 6 months before he passed away here in the house. A few months after passing, I had an eerie experience. One afternoon, I was home alone making some food in the kitchen downstairs. There's a hallway going from the front door of the house that leads right into the kitchen. The stairs to the second floor are right next to the hallway and next to the door as well. So, if somebody was to walk down the steps, then turn right into the hallway, you could immediately see who it was. I was facing the countertop opposite the hallway, preparing my food with earbuds on, listening to music. Now, there's a certain feeling you have when you sense that somebody may be watching you, like a sort of anxiety that washes over you. Out of nowhere, I got that feeling, and nothing audibly could have alerted me, as I had earbuds in. Just that feeling kicked in. I happened to turn around toward the hallway and happened to catch a glimpse of a shadow walking from the bathroom step to the right and into the hallway. It was in my line of sight for maybe only a second, but I know for a fact I saw a shadow walking. All of our cats were scratching around in the opposite direction too, making me think they also saw or noticed something as well. Although it was definitely creepy, I had a sense that it was his presence, so I wasn't petrified, but sort of happy in a sense. There's been several other occasions where I've caught glimpses out of the corner of my eye of something similar, but that was the only instance where I can be 100% positive I saw a shadow figure. The other incident happened with my friend's mother. The first few months after his passing, my friend's mom didn't want to come to our house. After the night of his passing, she found it too emotionally difficult to deal with. The first few times she came back around the house, and she had said she felt something as soon as she pulled into the driveway. It was hard for her to explain what exactly those feelings were, but she at least felt as if his presence was still with us at our house. One particular day, within the first year of his death, her and her daughter, my friend's younger sister, had stopped by for some reason I can't really seem to remember. They pulled into our driveway, and they started a conversation with my mother outside. During this time, I was sound asleep upstairs in my bedroom. At some point during their conversation, my friend's mother happened to look over my mom's shoulder and towards our front door. In the doorway, she swears she sees a figure. Both my mom and my friend's younger sister turn around and also say they see a figure. They all say that the figure looked similar to my past friend, and most notably, they think that they can make out the figure wearing a maroon Vans shirt, a shirt that both my friend and I owned and wore a decent amount of times. To confirm that they all just witnessed what they said, my mom called my phone to ask if I had been downstairs at all within the last few minutes. My answer that I was asleep upstairs only confirmed what they saw. Over the years, we've had several guests who were close to my friend say that they either saw a shadow figure or felt his presence throughout the house. It's not that much of a scary story, but a situation. I found out that a lot of my great-grandparents practiced witchcraft, brujeria, and were legit about it, while the other side of my family has a lot of mental problems. I don't know how to start because it's like a telenovela. I don't claim any of that heritage for me, but I can't say I haven't seen and heard my good share of stuff, like in my great-grandma's house, who died months before my birth. She was a witch who basically became one for my great-grandfather, who was a slut, so she wanted to keep him tied to her. I've heard she was beautiful in her youth and resembled Maria Felix, but I've never met her or seen many pictures of her. I remember when I was about 6, my family went to her house that was being inherited by one of my insane uncles. I remember the second floor of the house had no wall, so you could fall to the garden easily. For some reason, I was left alone upstairs, and I remember looking down from the upper floor to see her dancing some kind of ritual in the garden and a dog right beside her. I was really confused, so I went downstairs and asked my parents about her, but she wasn't there anymore. Years later, my grandma showed me a picture of her, and I instantly recognized her as the dancing lady, and that's when I realized that my parents decided to tell me about her and our strange heritage. I used to live with my cousin. We're not very close. Because of family problems, I need to live with him for a while. We're never close. He's got this standoffish attitude, and I'm not really a good conversationalist either. For that reason, we barely talk. On top of that, he works graveyard shift. Living in a 4-bedroom house doesn't help either. So, more often than not, we're only speaking once every 2 weeks. Every time I'm in and out of sleep, when I hear footsteps by the stairs, someone flushing down the toilet, I just assume he's home or just about to leave, and this happens like clockwork. One day when I get home, I notice the garage door is wide open. I'm a bit irritated since he often forgot to lock the garage door, and I'm a bit mad because I have a laptop that contains important work documents and was pretty afraid if some intruder stole it. Then I called him and I said, "What the hell, man? Can you please close the garage door? This is happening way too often." He got confused and he told me, "What do you mean? I've been gone for 8 days." I stuck frozen knowing how he's been gone for 8 days. Then who the hell has been running up and down the stairs, flushing down the toilet? After that, there's no more sounds that I mentioned. If it's a ghost, then whatever actual human is scarier than ghost. Well, whatever it was, it's pretty freaky either way, so wild. Once there was a beautiful planet full of flowers and animals and bees. One day, man appeared out of the muck and grime and said it was his planet. He made more men, and they stomped on the flowers, and they hunted the animals, and they swatted the bees. The men wanted more and more, and were never satisfied. They met other men and wanted what those men had too. They fought and clawed their way through every inch of the planet until they had the whole thing. But they still wanted more. So they dug into the ground, and they threw the trash in the sea. They flew above the land and turned the clouds gray and choked the birds. They built their buildings taller and taller, and their cities sprawled across once green lands. The planet started to fight back. She spewed hot lava from her cracks, killing many, but not enough. She shook and shaked until the land opened up and cities fell inside, but too many remained. She was getting so hot, and she used that heat to melt her ice caps and flood the coasts. But man just laughed at her. The planet, though, I must kill myself to kill the men. She took a huge breath and sucked as hard as she could, drawing other planets and rocks to her. They're far away, but she's patient. She keeps pulling and tugging at the rocks and planets. She smiles as she works, knowing one day they will meet and destroy man together once and for all. There's this house in my hometown, and to say it's got a history would be putting it mildly. It was literally built for my great aunt who lived there her whole life. The next owner painted it bright pumpkin orange and kept seeing apparitions. One of them was my aunt, and the running joke was that she was pissed off about her house being orange. Another was this little native boy in full dress. We're pretty sure we know who he is, but that's a whole story to itself. As well as a couple of other family members, most often some girls who died in infancy. But that's just the ghosts. It gets worse. A few years ago, the owner and her husband were drinking and arguing. She went on a beer run, and he told her he wouldn't be there when she came back. True enough, he wasn't there, and she thought he went to spend the night at a friend's house. Then in the morning, she went out to turn on the sprinklers and found him hanging in the garden shed. They had 2 kids, and after a couple of years, she started dating again and got a boyfriend. who turned out to be dangerous. They broke up and he started stalking and harassing her, but the cops wouldn't do anything about it, even after she got a restraining order. At this point, her daughter had graduated high school and was accepted into a college and left home a week early so she could set up her dorm and get used to the campus. Less than a week later, the boyfriend broke into the house with a shotgun. The woman put herself between him and her son, and he blew her head off right in front of the kid. The kid was able to escape and ran to the neighbor's house, and they woke up to find him in the kitchen covered in blood, and they helped him call the cops. The boyfriend didn't go after the kid and turned the shotgun on himself. If the sister hadn't gone to college early, she would have still been in the house. Here's the thing though, the neighbor swears he locked the door before going to bed. The kid didn't use a spare key. It was unlocked when he got there.